There was a time in human history when life was harsh, uncertain, and physically demanding, yet it was not brutal in the way our modern world has become. Primitive human beings struggled directly with nature. Strength ruled, intellect was undeveloped, and survival was the central concern. Still, despite inequality of power, systematic exploitation had not yet taken root. There was no organized greed, no intellectual manipulation, no machinery to drain the earth or the human mind. Life was brute, but it lacked the calculated cruelty and structural violence that define today's civilization. Today, humanity stands at a paradoxical peak: unprecedented scientific knowledge, technological power, and global connectivity, yet also unprecedented exploitation, anxiety, ecological destruction, and moral confusion. The crisis we face is not accidental, it is deeply rooted in the historical cycle of civilization described by Prabhat Ranjan Sarkar in his analysis of the Samaja Chakra, social cycle. From natural struggle to organized exploitation. As Sarkar explains, human society evolved through distinct phases: Shudra, Kshatriya, Vipra, and Vaishya ages, each dominated by a particular form of power. Early societies were ruled by physical strength, later by arms, then by intellect, and finally by capital. What distinguishes the present age, an advanced Vaishya-dominated capitalist phase, is that exploitation has become total. Nature is exploited beyond its regenerative capacity, resulting in global warming, climate instability, and ecological collapse. Labor is exploited, both manual and mental, reducing human beings to replaceable units in profit-driven systems. The mind itself is exploited, through information overload, consumerism, and manufactured desires. The future is exploited, by extracting today what tomorrow will desperately need. Earlier ages exploited bodies or beliefs, today's system exploits everything simultaneously. Inequality without scarcity. One of the starkest signs of this degeneration is the widening gap between the rich and the poor. Humanity today produces more wealth than ever before, yet billions live in insecurity. This inequality is not the result of scarcity, but of concentrated control over resources and production. A small minority accumulates wealth far beyond any rational need, while the majority struggle merely to survive. This is not an accident of history, it is the logical outcome of an economic system driven by acquisition rather than collective welfare. In Sarkar's words, capitalism transforms the majority into Shudras, people with no option but to sell their labor to survive. Such inequality corrodes society from within. The rich degenerate through excess, the poor through deprivation. Both lose balance, humanity, and higher aspiration. The failure of global ideals. The United Nations Sustainable Development Goals reflect a sincere global recognition that the current path is unsustainable. Yet, despite decades of declarations, targets, and conferences, these goals remain largely unrealized. Why? Because ethical intent cannot succeed within exploitative structures. Environmental protection cannot coexist with unchecked profit maximization. Social justice cannot thrive where wealth buys political power. Peace cannot endure when war itself is profitable. Without transforming the underlying social psychology and power relations, global goals become moral ornaments, beautiful, but ineffective. War, fear, and the psychology of control. Even in an age of advanced intelligence, war continues, not merely as armed conflict, but as a permanent condition of fear. Resources that could heal ecosystems, educate youth, and build resilience are diverted into destruction. Modern wars are fought not only on battlefields, but within minds, through propaganda, hatred, and insecurity. This constant tension sustains exploitative systems by keeping populations divided, distracted, and fearful. The silent suffering of the new generation. Perhaps the most tragic outcome of this civilization is the condition of the younger generation. They are not facing a lack of information, but a lack of wisdom. Too much information, too little clarity. Too many choices, too little purpose. Too much connectivity, too little inner stability. Anxiety, depression, and mental illness rise because the mind is overstimulated while the soul is neglected. Education trains skills, but not discernment. Intelligence grows sharper, but vision grows narrower. This is not a personal failure of youth, it is a civilizational failure. The missing element, Sadvipra leadership. Prabhat Ranjan Sarkar did not merely analyze the social cycle, he pointed toward its corrective force, the Sadvipras. Sadvipras are not passive moralists or detached spiritual seekers. They are spiritually grounded, morally disciplined, and socially active revolutionaries. Rooted in yama and niyama, they integrate ethics, intellect, courage, and compassion. Their historic role is clear. To prevent any class, warrior, intellectual, or capitalist, from exploiting society. To intervene when power degenerates into domination. To restore balance between material progress and spiritual values. When exploitation becomes systemic, neutrality itself becomes injustice. Hence Sarkar emphasized that Sadvipras must be active participants, even confronting power directly, intellectually, politically, or if unavoidable, physically. From brutality back to balance. The tragedy of our time is that life has become brutal, not because nature is cruel, but because human systems lack restraint and wisdom. We have moved from survival without greed to abundance with inhumanity. Yet the social cycle cannot be stopped. Stagnation means death, but conscious acceleration means renewal. Humanity now stands at a Yuga Samkranti, a critical transitional age. The future will not be saved by technology alone, nor by policies without ethics. It will be shaped by those who can unite moral courage, intellectual clarity, and spiritual depth, by Sadvipras who refuse to let power turn into exploitation. The central question of our age is no longer how much more can we extract, but how wisely can we live, with the earth, with one another, and with the deeper purpose of human existence. If life once was brute but not brutal, then the task before conscious humanity is clear. To ensure that the next phase of civilization becomes intelligent, compassionate, and just, not merely advanced, but wise.